They were once television's beloved liberal couple, lighting up screens in All in the Family. But one day, they simply disappeared. The studio explained it away, saying they'd taken a new opportunity in California. Yet beneath that cheerful cover story was a much darker truth. Rob Reiner had grown weary of constantly being called meathead and longed to chase his true dream: directing. Sally Struthers, meanwhile, felt stuck in a repetitive role she had grown to resent. She disliked her recycled lines so much that she spent $40,000 attempting to get out of her contract. In the end, it was the writers who had the final say. Mike was written off the show as having left his family for a younger woman named Muffy. The real-life drama behind the scenes was far messier than viewers were led to believe. The concept for All in the Family originated overseas. In 1968, Norman Lear came across a British sitcom titled Till Death Us Do Part in a magazine and immediately recognized his own family in the show's gruff father-son dynamic. Lear's own father once told his mother to stifle herself, and she had once called Lear the laziest white man I ever saw. Those raw, deeply personal experiences helped shape Archie Bunker's biting persona. But launching the show proved challenging. Several major actors were considered for the role of Archie: Tom Bosley, Jack Warden, Jackie Gleason, and even Mickey Rooney, who reportedly stormed out of a meeting, calling the show un-American and warning that Lear might be shot in the streets for putting a bigot on TV. Ironically, this backlash only highlighted how revolutionary the show really was. Eventually, the role was given to Carol O'Connor, who delivered the perfect mix of charm and obstinance. Years later, in a 2025 podcast, Sally Struthers offered a different version of the show's origins. She claimed that it wasn't Lear who first discovered the British series, but Carol O'Connor himself. After seeing the show while in the UK, he tried to bring it to the US, but couldn't secure support. So he approached Lear, who had the connections to make it a reality. According to Struthers, Lear never credited O'Connor for this and she kept quiet about it until after Lear's death. Before CBS picked up the show, ABC had its shot but passed. In 1968, a pilot titled Justice for All was filmed, featuring O'Connor and Gene Stapleton already in their lead roles. However, ABC had recently been burned by a controversial show called Turn On, which was cancelled after just one episode. Nervous, the network asked for changes. A second pilot was filmed in 1969 under a new name, Those Were the Days. Still, nothing progressed. The project remained shelved until a CBS executive viewed the second pilot in 1970. By that point, at least 17 pilots and 4 unaired episodes had been created. In one version, the Beverly Hillbillies star Irene Ryan played Edith, a version that nearly made it to television. Meanwhile, CBS was undergoing a major shakeup in 1971. The network cancelled a host of rural-themed shows like Green Acres, Mayberry RFD, and even Lassie in an attempt to attract younger, urban viewers demographics advertisers were desperate to reach. One actor joked, it was the year CBS axed anything with a tree in it. But these cancellations made room for bold, provocative new programming like All in the Family, MASH, and Maude, which dared to address controversial issues like war, racism, and abortion, topics American television had largely avoided until then. Even after CBS finally greenlit the show, casting remained complicated. Several actors were nearly chosen for Archie Bunker before Carol O'Connor ultimately landed the role. Lear had to assure him he'd be flown back from Europe if the show failed. That's how uncertain everyone was. O'Connor even disliked the first script. CBS braced for a flood of angry calls on the night of the premiere and hired extra phone operators in preparation. But rather than outrage, the show became an instant hit. O'Connor and Archie Bunker became inseparable in the public's mind. Casting Gloria and Michael was even more turbulent. 3 different pairs of actors were tested before Sally Struthers and Rob Reiner were chosen. Reiner had minimal acting experience. One of his few roles included a single word on Batman. Richard Dreyfuss auditioned. Harrison Ford turned the role down, concerned about the show's political slant. Reiner actually failed his first audition, but Norman Lear gave him another shot after seeing him in a dramatic scene. That time, Reiner nailed it. Though his true passion remained directing, he eventually wrote a few episodes himself. The show was placed in a prime Saturday night slot, and most importantly, the network didn't interfere. Lear was given full creative control. In hindsight, Silverman expressed pride in having helped shape television history, and rightly so. Behind the curtain, Sally Struthers spent years feeling creatively stifled. She was frustrated with Gloria's limited lines and one-dimensional character. As early as 1972, she asked the writers to give Gloria a job, hoping it would bring new storylines. But nothing changed until her legal struggle. Once she was contractually obligated to stay, the writers began to develop Gloria's character more, giving her a child, a home, and emotionally rich story arcs. Rob Reiner, meanwhile, faced a different challenge. Acting had never been his true passion. He was drawn to directing. He would often improvise scenes with Carol O'Connor, bringing emotional depth to their interactions. But the nickname Meathead stuck, even after the show ended, with fans yelling it at him in public. When CBS proposed a spin-off titled Gloria, Reiner turned it down. As a result, the writers removed his character, explaining that Michael had left Gloria and their son Joey to live on a commune in California with a woman named Muffy. Though abrupt, this exit freed Reiner to follow his real dream. And he flourished, going on to direct acclaimed films such as Stand By Me, The Princess Bride, and When Harry Met Sally, movies that proved he was for more than just Meathead. Even the heated debates between Archie and Michael weren't just for show, they reflected genuine off-screen tensions. Although Carol O'Connor was a liberal, he believed Archie should be portrayed with complexity rather than as a straightforward antagonist. Reiner, raised in liberal Hollywood by his well-known father Carl Reiner, was more vocal and progressive. This off-screen dynamic lent authenticity to their on-screen arguments and allowed audiences across the political spectrum to connect with the characters. As the show evolved, so did Gloria and Michael's relationship. Once young newlyweds, they became a couple dealing with major life changes, much like the series itself. Tensions at Archie's house ran high, particularly around Michael and Gloria. Archie often mocked Michael for sitting in his chair or overeating. But the dynamic shifted significantly when baby Joey arrived. The demands of motherhood left Gloria exhausted and distanced from Michael. Their relationship began to falter under the strain of raising a child while still living with Archie. Eventually, they moved out. George Jefferson, looking to irritate Archie, offered them his old house next door at a bargain. Archie was initially thrilled to see them go until he realized they were just moving in next door. For Gloria, the move signaled a new beginning. No longer confined to being just Archie's daughter or Michael's wife, she began discovering her own identity. Sally Struthers welcomed this transition. Gloria's character became more independent, developed depth, and found a stronger feminist voice. Over the course of the series, Gloria, once caught between her father's conservative values and her husband's progressive beliefs, came into her own. She gained confidence, advocated for women's rights, and supported causes that resonated with her. While her background sometimes clashed with her growing ideals, her evolution mirrored the experiences of many women in the 1970s, navigating tradition and change. As Gloria developed, so did the strain in her marriage. When they relocated to California, Michael became more engrossed in his academic pursuits, leaving Gloria feeling alone and dissatisfied. Michael, always ambitious, advanced from student to college professor. Their move to California marked the start of a new professional journey. However, after he and Gloria staged a nude protest at a nuclear power plant, he was fired, upending everything he had built. One of Michael's most powerful storylines involved Beverly LaSalle, a drag performer Archie once rescued who became a recurring character. Beverly's tragic murder in a hate crime stunned the family. Michael, present during the attack, was especially affected. It forced him to confront the devastating impact of hatred and violence, deepening his character beyond simply being Archie's liberal counterpart. Even Edith began to question her faith, wondering how such brutality could exist. By 1978, Rob Reiner made the decision to leave All in the Family, not due to any conflict, but because his true aspiration had always been directing. Inspired by his father, Carl Reiner, Rob had directed a few episodes of the series himself, and from there, the directing spark was fully ignited. Struthers also had to fight for her role. She landed the part while battling laryngitis, beating out Penny Marshall, who was dating Rob Reiner at the time and later became his wife. Struthers stayed on the show for 8 seasons, though the early days were challenging. Her lines were mostly forgettable domestic dialogue, and by season 5, her frustration led her to hire attorneys in an attempt to leave the show. The studio denied her request, binding her to stay under contract. Ironically, the later seasons became her favorite. Gloria finally received a storyline of her own, raising a child and living nearby. She later recalled those years as the most rewarding. O'Connor, meanwhile, became the emotional core of the show. He won 4 Emmy Awards and chose not to appear in 3 episodes during a CBS employee strike, refusing to cross the picket line in support. Although initially unsure, he later believed the series could have thrived without him, as there was always something compelling happening in that iconic bunker.